let's start here with Jolt the GOAT, which this might have been, my God, the toughest one to wrap my head around. Jaden Ivey is the transcendent star on the Pistons and not Cade Cunningham. Cade is good at everything on the court, but he doesn't have any game-breaking skills to push him into that true heliocentric star role that many think he'll be. His lack of first-step quickness will lead to a lot of mid-range jumpers, which will keep him from being a high-efficiency scorer, and he lacks the true shooting touch to be a high-volume scorer on off-the-dribble threes. Jaden Ivey is the guy with undeniable athleticism to throw defenses into rotation and force open looks for himself and shooters against the highest levels of defense. Grant Hughes, too hot or not?
It's a little too hot, but just barely. And that's why I love this question. It was the first one that I looked at. It just barely. And so to me, this is a question about ceiling. That's like really all. That's how I have to sort of like parse it out. And what you're saying, if you don't think this is too hot, is that Ivy has certain qualities that if he maximizes them, give him a better chance to be like the best player on a championship team type of offensive force. So, and that Cade does not have those things. And so like everything that is in the question is like, it's fair. Like Cunningham so far doesn't have like the elite athleticism, the way to just completely collapse a defense like someone like Ivy, who's super athletic, super fast, like has some of that. Like just watching the highlights from the Bucks game, I watched, just to kind of refresh, the comparison in my mind. Like Cunningham had a better game statistically. I think he had 27 and, a bunch of other counting stats. Ivy was in the teens somewhere, but Ivy's highlights just pop, right? And that's the reason you're getting this type of question is he does things athletically that a handful of guys can do. Cade is like even when he was picked first overall, I feel like looking back at that draft class, the thought was, I'm not sure about the ceiling on him, but man, he's definitely going to be very good. Like, but great might be out of the question. And it's obviously way too early to say that, but like, yeah, Ivy just explodes and Cunningham has to use craft and like change of pace and his size and to accomplish the same kind of things. Just a couple stats like to push back a little bit. So Cade is scoring on unassisted baskets more frequently than Ivy is right now. It's like stupid early. It's 7 games or whatever it is into Ivy's career when we're recording this. Like that seems likely to change, but just at the moment, Cunningham is a more self-sufficient source of offense, and he's a better facilitator so far. So I think that's a big point in Cade's favor. Cade's also improved a lot as a pick and roll ball handler. That's a big facet of being like the not transcendent star, but like the engine of offense on a good team. I think Cunningham has to work a lot harder. He's not as good as Ivy already at drawing fouls, which just speaks to the way Ivy explodes and just puts a defense on its heels. Mm-hmm. It's a little too hot, but like, I get it. I get the idea that if both players get to the level where they're like as good as they can be, then maybe Ivy is like that type of guy and Cunningham maybe isn't.
And this was in the spirit of the exercise, so I appreciate the thought, and it really made me think. We need to, like, let's see Cade play an entire season first. And I know we're worried about the efficiency, and there's sort of this seesawing aggression levels here. I can't bring myself to care about the efficiency. He's up to like 35+% on catch and shoot threes. That's fine for me. When you look at the jumper, even the pull-ups or the step backs, I think it's fine. You probably want it to, we're at the point where it seems like Scotty Barnes is processing or going through the motions of those a lot quicker than Cade Cunningham. I don't know that he needs to be super quick. I look at his ability to manipulate the defense at more of a deliberate cadence as a huge asset. And it's reflected in the way that the Pistons play already. I mean, look, their effective field goal percentage this year increases by almost 12 points when he's on the floor. And you can say that Jaden Ivey is a rookie. And so does it matter that Detroit has an offensive rating of 124 when Cade plays without Ivey versus 97.2 when Ivey plays without Cade? Again, I'm going to throw that out and say it doesn't matter. But like Cade Cunningham is already there to where now that you've given him some space to operate with Bojan Bogdanovic on the floor, he's really able to pick things apart. And I do think a lot of the efficiency will come later. Do I want half of his jumpers to come from mid-range, even when he's taking them at a 47% clip right now? No, I don't. I don't think that that's sustainable or smart. But we've also seen someone like DeMar DeRozan carve out an all-NBA caliber career while being a player who probably operates at, there was more explosion in prime DeMar DeRozan and even probably now than Cade Cunningham. But like, he can be that type of a just break down these set defenses player where I don't know if Jaden Ivey will already get there. I do see, to Jaden Ivey's credit, more than I did when I was crash coursing for the draft. When people compared him to John Morant, I see it now. I thought it was like it could be like a very lazy comp, but there are moments when you really see it with his decision making. I trust his ability to shoot more than I did with him coming into the league. So I understand, I guess, why, based off what we've already seen, you could go that route, because Jaden Ivey is sort of wowed, maybe more than Cade did with his efficiency early on in his career. I think the better efficiency is going to come. And even if Cade doesn't give you as much as that, foul line pressure, rim pressure, he's just going to be the more transcendent player to me because of how he will be able to elevate his teammates, whether he's working within tight spaces or open spaces. And look, let's not discount that we're talking, a lot of this has to do with physical traits, but this is someone who is, they list him at 6'6". He feels like he's bigger than that and is going to probably be what I think a really rock solid, if not better, asset defensively long term. So I would call this not even a little too hot for me. I think it's way too hot, but maybe this is just more testament than it is of, oh, well, Cade is It's just like, well, Jaden Ivey has really just sort of blown us away.
Yeah, I think it also kind of comes down into, in addition to being about the ceiling for these guys, it comes down to like which unteachable qualities are more valuable, because they each have like certain attributes that sort of are just inborn that you're not going to coax out of a player, like, or probably not. Like Ivy's athleticism is just like, that's just rare, and you can't like make a guy be able to move around the floor the way that he does. But Cunningham, I think too, his ability to kind of get to a spot at whatever pace he needs to go to get there, like that's a hard, I don't know if that's totally unteachable, but at the very least, it's really hard to learn. Like a lot of guys take a really long time to get like half as good at Cade as Cade is right now at just, well, I need to get down to the right block. I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to do it by blowing by somebody. Like I'm just going to get there. So I think you're right. Like it's too early to say this. It's probably too hot, but like, I do think it's more likely. So it's impossible for Cunningham to eventually develop some of the skills that Ivy has. Like he's never going to be that fast. He's never going to explode off the floor. He's never going to throw himself into bodies, hang in the air and finish, like that kind of stuff. Ivy might be able to learn a little bit of like the craft stuff. Like it's way too early, but that ties back into ceiling. It's just like how good do you think Ivy can be? And the real answer, probably to your credit, is like it's way too early to say. Like we don't know. Cade is already really, really good.
Also, he's shooting, I just looked this up. He's shooting 6 of 10 on step back jumpers this year. That's only
Which
10.
Ivy
like,
is or Cade is?
Cade is.
Okay, well, that, guess what? He's better than Ivy right now.
The only other thing I was going to ask on this is, has like anything changed about, even if you were concerned or not in the first place, about how you feel about these two together long term moving forward? Do you view it as more workable, less workable than you initially thought?
No, one of the things I thought that came to mind as I was trying to put an answer together for this is like, I mean, it almost doesn't matter, because it seems to me like, man, they're going to work great. Like they're very complementary. I think they have such different games, and they could improve in such different ways that like this should work. Like, and I really almost want to get out ahead of it and be like, can we not do the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum? We got to break these guys up, 3 years from now, because they haven't won a title yet. I feel like there's that kind of potential where you just have these two great guys that can learn to play off each other and be like, the cornerstones of a really good team.
I'm more optimistic than I was, because it seems like their skill sets are divergent to the point of they are complementary. But Jaden Ivey shooting, for example, a higher clip on pull-up threes than catch and shoot threes, like that's something that they at least need to like even out a bit. And that's just something to watch. But again, I am more confident in Jaden Ivey's shooting ability than I was entering the season. So I'm with you. I think it works long term. I still think we look at this pairing, and we fast forward 3-4 years, assuming they're still together. I just think that we might look back at this even discussion and be like, well, what were we kind of thinking?